What's going on, guys? Jason Boy here, and this is my draft analysis for the United Showdown League. Brief overview, the United Showdown League is a Discord-based draft league that I am a part of. There's actually 3 leagues in one. I am part of the Yellow League, which is the YouTube league. It's on JoltzVoltz's Discord. It's a pretty cool place. I'd recommend checking it out. The link to the server is down in the description below. I am the coach of the Cleveland Gravelers. Yeah, I suck at naming things, ever. But this is one of the first leagues I'm in. I've been in only one other league before. So I'm still really new to this. I'm still getting used to how leagues work. Plus, I haven't done a ton of competitive battling in Gen 7. I've done some here and there, so I'm vaguely familiar with stuff, but not nearly as well as I was in Gen 6. Gen 6 I knew pretty much everything. I'm still learning stuff about Gen 7. But anyway, I think that this is going to be pretty fun and a good learning experience for me to really learn stuff about Gen 7. That's something that I've needed to do for a while now, and this is a really good chance to do it. So anyway, that's enough introduction. Let's get down to my draft picks. My first pick for the draft league was Mega Charizard X. Charizard is my favorite Pokemon of all time. I don't have a really good reason for liking it, I just do. But Mega Charizard X is arguably one of the best Megas ever. It's really good, it's pretty popular. It gave Charizard a huge buff. Tough Claws is really nice. It's an amazing physical attacker. I noticed while looking at it that it also has really good special attack. Its attack stat and special attack are the same. If I'm feeling gutsy, I can run it mixed or something. Of course, I would prefer to run it physical, but I can use special moves if I absolutely have to with it. Also, speed-wise, it's pretty good. 100 base speed, which I've noticed is a pretty solid speed to be at. I have used Charizard X a lot in my time, mostly in Gen 6, but I've used it frequently in Gen 7. It's always been fun to play around with. I've always enjoyed it, so I figured that we would start things off by picking that one. My next pick was another Pokemon that I've used a ton, and that is Azumarill. Azumarill is a really good belly drum sweeper. If you let it set up belly drum, it's going to destroy you. It's going to get a couple knockouts usually. Huge power is amazing on Azumarill. There's several ways to play it even with just huge power. It also gets Thick Fat and Sapsifter if I get creative and want to try to run something with that. It gets a number of really nice physical attacks. It's another Pokemon that I'm really familiar with. It is a bit on the slow side, and it doesn't have a ton of bulk to back it up, but it's still a Pokemon that I think is going to be a lot of fun to play around with. Next up, I wanted a Pokemon that was more of a support role, something that wasn't going to be forced to use physical attacks like Charizard and Azumarill. And so I went with Whimsicott. And I went with Whimsicott because it's a very good prankster. It's probably one of the better pranksters in the game. And even without prankster, it's pretty fast. And I figured it would make a really good support mon. It gets a bunch of really nice support moves. Leech Seed, Tailwind, Encore. I feel like it's going to be a really good support mon on my team. Now then, that created a slight weakness to poison between both Azumarill and Whimsicott. And so I decided I wanted a steel type, and I went with the steel type that I knew well, and that is Bisharp. So Bisharp is immune to poison. It's a really nice physical attacker. It can hit really hard. Defiant is an ability that I'm hoping I can get some good use out of. It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. I haven't really used it to much success before, but it's an ability that I really want to try to make good use of. Now, I basically spent the first 5 rounds of the draft panicking about Stealth Rock, because Charizard does not like taking Stealth Rocks. The other Pokemon aren't as concerned about it, but I would rather not have to worry about that with something like Azumarill, where it plays really well if you use Belly Drum, but you need as much health as you can in order to really take advantage of Belly Drum. So I had a few in mind, and I went potentially with Scizor, actually. It's a really good physical attacker. It gets Technician, which is mainly its niche. It can turn some of the weaker moves into really nice powerful moves. but it gets access to Defog, which it's an option, I think. If for some reason I'm facing a team that I'm concerned about Stealth Rock, I can maybe run Defog Scizor and see how well that goes. Otherwise, I can go with just classic physical wreck things. So, it's an option for Defog. Hopefully I won't have to worry about using Defog too much, because rocks aren't really something I want to deal too much with. But if for some reason I have to worry about that, it is an option. As I mentioned, I am not very familiar with Gen 7, so what better way to familiarize myself with it than to use a Gen 7 Pokemon, namely an Alolan form, namely Alolan Marowak. Alolan Marowak is another really good physical attacker. I have way too many of those, but with a thick club, it increases its attack and it can hit really hard. But it also has really nice defense. It has base 110 defense, so it's a good option if I need something to take a physical attack or two. It has its exclusive move, Shadow Bone, as well as Flare Blitz, Earthquake. One move that I really want to try to make work is Stomping Tantrum. It doubles in power if the previous attack fails. It's insanely niche. It's insanely unhelpful, but it looks like it could be insanely fun. So I might try to work that in at some point. We'll see. Probably won't. It probably won't run very well, but it's an option. It's something that I want to try out. And then my next pick is finally a special attacker, because I have so many physical attackers. I really need something that can hit on the special side of things. And so I went with SPon. One thing that's nice about SPon is that it has really good special attack and speed. It gets magic bounce. It's a good anti-lead mon. It's potentially a counter to Stealth Rock. Send it out first so that rocks get bounced back, or they don't use the rocks at all. So it's a second option if I'm worried about Stealth Rock. Then my last 4 picks were Pokemon that I had first seen in the Pokemon Ultra RPG, or URPG, and I kind of want to try out in a different format. A brief rundown: the Ultra RPG is a text-based RPG that is on Bulba Garden forums, Petalburg Woods forums, and Pokemon Crossroads. Basically the main niche of URPG is that there is no 4-move limit. Whatever you teach your Pokemon, it can learn at the same time. So that creates an entirely different level of strategy. I kind of wanted to see how that would go in a format that has the 4-move limit. I wanted to see if I could get these mons to do anything good. So the first one I grabbed was Vikavolt. Vikavolt is a mon that I overpaid for in the RPG. I got it in an auction and I paid too much for it, and I've used it in the free-for-alls there. It's a really good special attacker. It can take a few hits before going down. The main downside is that it's very slow, but I really like that special attack, so I kind of wanted to see if we can make it work. Vikavolt is my Z captain, which means it's the only Pokemon on my team that can use Z moves. I chose it pretty much just because I couldn't think of anyone else I would want to give a Z crystal to. Like, all my other mons would probably do better with a different item, so I just delegated the task to Vikavolt. The second URPG mon I want to use is type Null. Basically, URPG has gyms, which is a trainer can take up a spot as a gym leader and take mons that are of the type that the gym is, kind of like the games. Main difference is that you can have wild cards, which are Pokemon that are not the type of the gym, but fit the theme enough that they're allowed in. Silvally was not one of those wild cards. In URPG, Silvally is limited to the normal type gym, and it cannot change types. So in URPG gyms, I would probably rather use Eviolite type Null, where you're giving up a little bit of speed in exchange for some extra defenses. And so I kind of wanted to try that in the draft league. So like I just said, you're giving up a little bit of speed in exchange for some extra defense and special defense. And when I looked online about it, people were saying, oh, Silvally has way better of a move pool than type Null, why would you ever use it? Type Null still has a pretty decent move pool, in my opinion, so I think it's still a pretty viable option. Third URPG mon was Volbeat. Volbeat is a pretty good prankster mon, actually, kind of underrated. In URPG, it gets, because there's no 4-move limit, you can use a whole bunch of status moves without having to worry about something like Taunt. In something like a draft league, you would have to decide how you want to play it. Tailglow, Baton Pass, Encore, Toxic, Defensive. I don't know what defensive moves Volbeat gets off the top of my head, but there's options in there to make use of Prankster. It's probably going to be pretty predictable, but I feel like there's enough status moves out there that I could run on it that I could make it a bit less predictable. And then the last one I grabbed from URPG was Accelgor. Accelgor isn't super popular in URPG, but I've seen it a few times to pretty good effect. It's a really nice special attacker, which is good because I can always use more special attackers. It's really fast. It gets access to Water Shuriken, which is now special, which is really nice. It was more or less just a mod that I needed something to round out the team, and I figured Accelgor would fit the bill. So that is my draft analysis. I'm not overly confident in my team because, like I said, I'm still new to draft leagues. I'm still new to Gen 7, and honestly, I'm not expecting a whole ton from my draft. But we'll see. We'll see if I can pull some things out, and we'll just have a lot of fun. I have a feeling that this is going to be tons of fun. So, thanks a bunch for watching. Go ahead and comment down below how horribly you think I'm going to do in this league. If you enjoyed, go ahead and leave a like, that's always greatly appreciated. And keep an eye out for my first team builder and my first battle. So, as always, I am Jason Boy, and I'll see you next time, everyone.